Geocentrism. Bowden replies to cool, hard logic. Under the name of cool, hard logic, a critic of geocentrism has made about 8 YouTube videos on the subject. Having looked at his #1 video some time ago, I felt that his criticisms were so foolish that they were not worth replying to. However, I thought I would make a short video replying to just the opening sections to show those who eagerly watch his videos and cheer him onwards just how very foolish his criticisms are. Having briefly referred to Aristarchus and Copernicus, he then shows the face of an idiot and says,
"There are still people in scholastically impaired backwaters of society who believe that the cosmos rotates around a fixed Earth. Such outdated and demonstrably false beliefs are rooted in a lack of education and often go hand in hand with creationism. It's a classic recipe. Take someone undereducated, add in the arrogant belief that they can better hundreds of years of real science using a storybook, and sprinkle generously with claims of a science conspiracy."
So let us look at this statement first of all. Scholarly impaired, he says. Then how does he explain the fact that there are many highly qualified scientists holding senior positions who are also geocentrists? I give the following as a few examples. Gerardus Bow, BS, MS, MCIS, PhD. He has a doctorate in astronomy and taught computer courses and maths. He is the editor of the Biblical Astronomer, the only journal dealing with geocentrism. He has lectured and written extensively on the subject. Philip Stott, BS, MS. He obtained a BS with honours and MS degrees in civil engineering. He then studied mathematics and astronomy with the University of South Africa and lectured worldwide. He gave a lecture in Switzerland on geocentricity to some Christian scientists, many who worked at CERN. They could not refute his facts, and some shed tears of frustration. They sent a recording of his lecture to their most competent scientist, Jean-Marie Musica. He checked his facts and found additional evidence. He travelled hundreds of kilometres to tell Stott that the Bible was a more reliable book than that of science. Professor Harold Armstrong, BS, MS. He was awarded the Medal in Physics as well as the Governor-General's Medal of the Faculty of Applied Science. James Hansen, BS, MS. Case Western Reserve University received a BS in Mathematics in 1956 and an MS in Astronomy in 1962. During his student years, Jim worked for the Case Department of Astronomy. At one time, he performed some research on satellite attitude control and powered space flight orbits. John Byle, BS, PhD. He had a Bachelor of Science degree in mathematics and became a professor. He had a doctorate in astronomy in which he lectured in maths and astronomy at the British Columbia Department of Geophysics and Astronomy. Now, every one of these highly qualified men are convinced geocentrists, and I could provide more. So the question now arises, is cool, hard logic really telling the truth? Or is he spreading a grossly distorted picture using very emotive language in order to bulldoze his listeners into accepting what he says is the truth? His style of presenting his evidence reminds me of the speaker addressing an audience who, in the margin of the notes for his speech, put the comment, "Argument weak. Shout louder." He then starts to criticize the work of a geocentrist called Fernie Boy. But before he does so, he takes a side swipe at the Bible, criticizing some of the passage which he thinks are ridiculous. So let us look at these 4 passages that he quotes.
This is the same Bible that says the earth has foundations.
Answer: of course the earth has foundations. These are the deep strata inside the earth upon which the upper strata are laid. If cool hard logic thinks that creationists believe that God put the earth on a nice flat base so that it could sit on a table, as he has shown in this picture, he has proven his own childish mentality in trying to lampoon Christian common sense and understanding.
That we can't eat delicious, nutritious pork.
Pigs are often infected with Streptococcus suis, which can cause serious illnesses in people. Even today, vets have to inspect every pig carcass to check that it has not been infected. So in Old Testament days, when they knew nothing about infections, God warned them simply not to eat pigs because they were unclean. Surely a wise precaution.
That we can eat cows, and that we can't.
Answer: cows eat grass and provide man with nutritious milk. Animals that move along the ground, such as lizards, snakes, etc., are often scavengers of dead animals and are likely to become infected with the many bacteria, etc., that invade these corpses or are in the earth over which these animals crawl. His criticisms display his lack of common sense.
That bats are birds.
Answer: it was sufficient in Old Testament days to class all flying creatures as birds. That modern man has split them up into separate classes and recognizes that a bat has significant differences to a bird makes absolutely no difference to the warning not to eat them. Living in dark, damp caves, they are likely to carry infections. Again, a wise warning from God to protect the health of his chosen people. He then deals with Ferny Boy 100 and puts his name under the goon face. Ferny Boy 100 shows the picture of Polaris and asks, why would Polaris stay in the same place if the Earth is tilting? Now, I have received several suggested proofs of geocentricity, but they are all simply wrong. In this case, Polaris is stationary in both the geocentric and the heliocentric models. But notice what cool hard logic has done. His very first detailed criticism of a geocentric video is of a case that no knowledgeable geocentrist would use. Cool hard logic has deliberately chosen a wrong example so that he can demonstrate to all his eager followers just how clever he is. He has chosen a straw man and then proceeds to demolish it. Now, I have no intention of wasting my time criticizing the rest of the first video, and most certainly I will not even look at any of the other videos he has made. So far, I have examined only the first 2 minutes of this 13-minute video and demonstrated how grossly inadequate and ridiculous his comments are. He then criticizes the geocentric explanation of the seasons. I have dealt with this specifically in another video, a geocentrist explanation of the seasons. The sun's motions do seem complex, but I would here like to present a simplified version of the sun's movements by combining two simple motions to show how they produce a complex motion, and then showing how two simple motions of the sun and ether easily produce the seasons every year. So let us look at a simple turning of a wheel. Here we have a wheel turning so that any one spot on the perimeter is moving at 10 miles per hour. Now let us add in another simple motion. we will move it at 10 miles an hour horizontally at the same time. This is what it would do if the wheel is travelling at 10 miles an hour on a road. Now let us see what that same spot is doing. At the bottom, it is stationary relative to the road, but then only a split second later it is travelling at 20 miles an hour. On a car wheel, this would take only 0.2 seconds. So we can see that combining two simple motions can result in a very complex motion. Now, such rapid changes from 0 to 20 miles an hour and back again would normally induce huge stresses in any mechanism that could rip it apart. But here they do not, because the wheel's rotation is independent of its lateral movement. It is only when we look at the movement of one spot on the wheel that it seems to have a strange motion. This also applies to the movement of the sun. It moves slowly around the tilted ecliptic, but at the same time it is embedded in the very dense ether, and this is rotating quite quickly once every day. The sun has no idea that the ether is rotating. It merely carries on circling the Earth around the tilted ecliptic. It is these two motions that produce the regular seasons during the year. I hope that explanation makes the seemingly complex motion of the sun more understandable. So for the rest of this video, I will leave those critics of geocentricity with a particular question that I would like them to answer before they hurl any further abuse at geocentrists. The Michelson-Morley experiment gave velocities between 1 and 10 kilometers per second, but these were not as high as the 30 kilometers per second they were expecting. Despite these actual readings, the experiment is always reported as giving a null result. The result shocked the scientific world, and the Fitzgerald-Lorentz contraction was invented to overcome the obvious conclusion that we were not going round the sun. Einstein then got rid of the problem by abolishing the ether. But now let us turn to another experiment made by Michelson and Gale that is never mentioned in university astronomical courses. This recorded the fact that the ether was passing over the face of the Earth within 2% of the expected value for the Earth turning once per day. Now, either the Earth is turning or the ether is turning around the Earth. Airy's experiment showed that it was the ether that was turning around a stationary Earth. My question is, what was passing over the face of the Earth if it was not the ether that Einstein had abolished? Despite all my denigration of cool, hard logic, there is one achievement that I consider him to have fully mastered. That is the art of sophistry, the dictionary definition of which is the use of clever but false arguments, especially with the intention of deceiving. Furthermore, in his video, I felt that firstly, his criticisms were far from clear. Secondly, they had a note of desperation, and that thirdly, they were quite ridiculous. Could I therefore suggest that he changes his nom de plume to confused, hysterical ludicrousness? Yes, there is such a word. I hope you found that interesting. Thank you for listening.